Picture this. You're scrolling through cruise deals online, and you see MSC cruises popping up everywhere with insanely cheap prices. But here's the thing nobody tells you up front: not every MSC ship is built the same. Some of these vessels feel like you've stepped into a futuristic floating resort with robot bartenders, water parks that defy gravity, and entertainment that rivals Vegas. Others? Well, let's just say you might feel like you accidentally booked a retirement community with a buffet and not much else going on. MSC has exploded over the past 2 decades, transforming from a European family-owned operation into one of the absolute giants of the cruise industry. In 2025, they're operating a massive fleet of 23 ships that sail to practically every corner of the globe. But with so many options, how do you know which ships are actually worth your hard-earned vacation money and which ones you should probably skip unless the deal is just too ridiculous to pass up? Today, we're doing something nobody else has dared to do. We're ranking every single MSC cruise ship from the absolute worst to the undisputed best, and trust me, some of these placements are going to shock you. So buckle up, grab yourself a slice of pizza from the buffet, and let's dive into the complete MSC fleet breakdown. Starting at the very bottom of our list, we have the MSC Opera. This ship launched all the way back in 2004 as part of the Lyrica class, and honestly, it shows its age in every possible way. Opera carries around 2,700 passengers, which makes it absolutely tiny when you compare it to MSC's modern mega ships that can pack in 3 times as many people. Back when Opera was designed, cruising was a much simpler affair. Fewer specialty restaurants, smaller cabins, and entertainment options that feel seriously dated by today's standards. Now, to be fair, Opera does have a few things going for it. The ship is incredibly affordable, making it attractive for budget-conscious travelers who just want to get out on the water without breaking the bank. It's also super easy to navigate since it's so small, and some passengers actually prefer that more intimate, old-school cruising vibe where you're not constantly surrounded by thousands of other guests. But let's be real here. Most people who sail on Opera complain about the limited amenities, the lack of dining variety, and the overall absence of any wow factor. The ship feels more like a floating ferry service than an actual vacation resort, which makes it really hard to get excited about. If this is your first experience with MSC and you don't know any better, you might walk away thinking the entire cruise line is overrated. That's exactly why Opera lands at the absolute bottom of our ranking. She had her moment in the sun 2 decades ago, but in 2025, she's struggling hard to compete with what the brand has become. Moving up just slightly, we hit number 22 with the MSC Lyrica. This vessel actually predates Opera, having launched in 2003 as MSC's very first purpose-built cruise ship. At the time, this was a massive deal for the brand's growing ambitions in the cruise industry. Lyrica can accommodate about 2,600 passengers, making her part of the same class as Opera, which means she suffers from a lot of the same issues. You're looking at a smaller ship with fewer activities, less variety in entertainment, and an overall experience that pales in comparison to what MSC has innovated in more recent years. The best thing Lyrica has going for her is the price tag. You can often snag a week-long cruise on this ship for less than what you'd spend on a long weekend at a theme park, which makes it super appealing to bargain hunters who prioritize affordability over everything else. But here's the catch: you absolutely get what you pay for. Guest reviews consistently mention how outdated the decor feels, how underwhelming the dining experiences are, and how the ship gives off a serious budget cruise vibe that makes you feel like you're cutting corners everywhere. Lyrica might be fine if you're doing short Mediterranean hops or if you genuinely prefer a quieter, more laid-back cruise atmosphere without all the bells and whistles. But when you stack her up against MSC's modern fleet members that literally feel like floating cities with endless options, Lyrica just doesn't stand a chance anymore. At number 21, we're looking at the MSC Armonia. Launched back in 2001, yes, you heard that right, 2001, this ship is another member of the Lyrica class that carries roughly 2,065 passengers after capacity. Armonia was actually built for a different cruise line before MSC took her over, and while the company did stretch and refurbish the ship back in 2014 to try bringing her up to modern standards, those upgrades ultimately weren't enough to keep her competitive in today's market. The ship has been sailing for over 2 decades now, and you can feel every single one of those years when you step aboard. On the positive side, Armonia is cozy and intimate, and she's way less overwhelming than the massive new mega ships that can sometimes feel like you're navigating a shopping mall at sea. That gives her a classic, old-school cruising charm that appeals to a specific type of traveler who values simplicity over spectacle. But the weaknesses? Pretty much everything else. The dining options are extremely basic with limited variety, the cabins are on the smaller side even by older ship standards, and the entertainment lineup feels incredibly thin when you compare it to what modern cruisers have come to expect. When you put Armonia side by side with MSC's current flagships like the World Europa or Seascape, it honestly feels like stepping into a time machine. And not in a charming, nostalgic way where you appreciate the vintage vibes, but more like a stark reminder of just how far the entire cruise industry has evolved and left ships like this one behind. Rounding out the bottom tier at number 20 is the MSC Sinfonia. This ship joined the fleet in 2002, originally built for festival cruises before MSC took her over, making her part of the Lyrica class with a capacity for about 2,679 passengers after she was lengthened. Sinfonia represents exactly the kind of ship MSC was operating in the early 2000s when the brand was still finding its identity: simple, compact, and laser-focused on covering just the basics without any frills or innovation. While Sinfonia does have a small but loyal following among cruisers who genuinely prefer the experience of smaller ships where things feel less chaotic and more manageable, the reality is that most travelers today see her as seriously outdated compared to MSC's floating mega resorts that dominate the modern fleet. The entertainment options are extremely limited with basic production shows that feel like they haven't been updated in years. Dining choices are minimal with just a couple of restaurants and not much variety beyond the main dining room and buffet. And the overall atmosphere on board leans more toward what you'd find on a quiet ferry crossing than the exciting, vibrant energy of a proper floating city. The upside to all of this is that Sinfonia genuinely does offer a calmer, significantly less crowded cruise experience, which some people absolutely love if they're trying to escape the chaos of modern life. But if you're someone who's looking for cutting-edge technology, big theatrical productions, or those Instagram-worthy wow factor features that make you feel like you're on a truly special vacation, Sinfonia simply doesn't deliver in 2025. She feels more like a throwback vessel from a bygone era. Decent enough for a super cheap getaway if the price is right, but nowhere even close to the excitement and innovation you'll find on MSC's actual flagships. Coming in at number 19, we're kicking off the Musica class with the MSC Musica herself. Launched in 2006 with capacity for around 2,550 passengers, Musica represented a significant step up from those smaller Lyrica-class ships at the time. The ship added more dining options to give guests better variety, larger public spaces so things didn't feel as cramped, and upgraded entertainment venues that could handle bigger productions. For MSC, Musica was a really important transitional vessel that showed the world they were ready to move into mid-sized territory and compete more seriously with established cruise brands. That said, Musica really hasn't aged gracefully over the past 2 decades. The decor throughout the ship feels dated and tired, with design choices that scream mid-2000s in ways that don't hold up well today. Entertainment offerings are modest at best, lacking the scale and production value that modern cruisers have come to expect from their onboard shows. And perhaps most tellingly, the ship just lacks that excitement and glitz that MSC has since become famous for with their newer vessels. Passengers who sail on Musica these days often describe the experience as fine but ultimately forgettable, which is exactly the problem when you're competing in an industry that's all about creating memorable vacation moments. You'll get a pleasant enough cruise experience with all the basics covered: decent food, comfortable cabins, friendly service, but absolutely nothing about Musica stands out enough to make her competitive with newer ships in the fleet. In 2025, she genuinely feels more like a relic from an era when MSC was still figuring out its brand identity and hadn't yet discovered what would make them special, which makes her one of the weaker options in the entire fleet if you have other choices available. At number 18, we've got the MSC Orchestra. Launched in 2007, Orchestra is also part of the Musica class, though she's slightly larger than her sister ship and carries about 2,550 passengers. When Orchestra debuted, she was positioned as a polished upgrade over the original Musica, featuring more lounges where guests could relax and socialize, better dining variety with additional specialty restaurants, and a theater specifically designed to handle bigger theatrical productions that could actually compete with what other cruise lines were offering. On paper, everything about Orchestra should have made her a win for MSC and a solid mid-tier option in their growing fleet. But in reality, Orchestra suffers from almost all the same limitations that plague Musica. The interiors throughout the ship now look tired and outdated, with decor choices that feel stuck in the late 2000s. Entertainment offerings remain limited when you compare them to what you'll find on MSC's newer vessels with their massive production budgets and cutting-edge technology. And perhaps most frustratingly, the overall atmosphere on board feels somewhat flat and uninspired, lacking that special energy that makes a cruise feel exciting rather than just okay. It really doesn't help Orchestra's case that she exists in a fleet that's increasingly full of jaw-dropping mega ships with features that make your eyes pop the second you step aboard. In that context, Orchestra just completely blends into the background and becomes forgettable. Guests who sail on her often describe the experience as average, which is probably the most damning thing you can say about a cruise ship. Not terrible enough to complain about loudly, but not spectacular enough to recommend enthusiastically or want to sail again. If you're genuinely looking for a solid budget cruise option and the price is significantly cheaper than newer ships, Orchestra will get the job done without any major disasters. But if you want that Instagram-worthy wow factor that makes your vacation feel special and worth bragging about to your friends, you'll find it sorely lacking on this particular vessel. Sliding into number 17 is the MSC Poesia. Launched in 2008 as the final ship of the Musica class, Poesia carries about 2,550 passengers and was designed to be another step up from the Lyrica-class ships without quite reaching the level of grandeur that would come with the Fantasia-class ships that followed just a few months later. One thing that Poesia genuinely does have going for her is a certain charm that guests often pick up on. Passengers frequently note that the ship feels slightly warmer and cozier compared to her sisters Musica and Orchestra, with public spaces that have a more inviting atmosphere even if they're working with the same basic design template. But make no mistake about it, Poesia still falls significantly short when measured against modern standards. The dining options remain pretty limited with just a handful of specialty restaurants beyond the main dining room, which gets repetitive quickly on longer voyages. Entertainment doesn't wow anybody with mostly basic production shows that feel like they're stuck in the past. And the public spaces genuinely feel cramped and undersized when you compare them to the sprawling resort-style areas you'll find on MSC's newer flagship vessels. The ship has become a popular choice over the years for repositioning cruises and special event sailings where the itinerary matters more than the ship itself, which tells you something about how MSC views her place in the fleet hierarchy. Outside of those niche scenarios where you're focused more on the destinations than the onboard experience, Poesia really struggles to stand out in 2025 as anything special or particularly compelling. She's pleasant enough if you happen to end up sailing on her, and you probably won't have a terrible time by any means. But she's ultimately just another ship that serves as a reminder of how dramatically MSC has leveled up its game since the late 2000s when this vessel was considered a solid mid-range option. Breaking out of the teens at number 16, we have the MSC Magnifica. Launched in 2010 as the absolute final ship in the Musica class, Magnifica accommodates about 2,550 passengers and represented MSC's attempt to refine everything they'd learned from building Musica, Orchestra, and Poesia. The company added more specialty dining options to give guests better variety, upgraded the interiors with slightly more modern design touches, and generally tried to create the best possible version of this particular ship class before moving on to bigger and better things. In a lot of ways, Magnifica genuinely is the best ship of the Musica bunch, with the most polished execution of that mid-2000s design philosophy. But in 2025, even being the best of this particular class doesn't mean she can effectively compete with the massive, flashy Fantasia class, Seaside class, and world-class ships that now dominate MSC's marketing and guest attention. On the positive side, Magnifica gets praised pretty regularly for offering a nice balance between size and amenities. She's significantly easier to navigate compared to those massive mega ships where you might walk a mile just getting from your cabin to dinner, but she still manages to offer more options and entertainment than those basic Lyrica-class vessels we talked about earlier. The major downside is that Magnifica feels genuinely caught in this awkward middle ground where she's not small enough to have that charming, intimate boutique ship appeal, but she's also not large enough to deliver the exciting, resort-style experience that modern cruisers are increasingly expecting when they book a vacation. If you're after a straightforward, no-frills MSC cruise at a decent price point and you don't particularly care about having the newest ship or the flashiest features, Magnifica absolutely delivers a solid experience. But you absolutely should not expect any jaw-dropping innovation or those Instagram-worthy moments that make your vacation feel extra special. She's a steady, middle-of-the-road choice that gets the job done without embarrassing herself, which lands her squarely in the lower half of our ranking but still ahead of her older sisters and those aging Lyrica-class ships. At number 15, we're finally hitting the Fantasia class with the MSC Fantasia herself. Launched in 2008 as the very first ship in this class, Fantasia can accommodate around 3,274 passengers, making her significantly larger than anything MSC had built before. This ship represented MSC's bold move into genuine large ship cruising where they could compete more directly with established industry giants. For the very first time, MSC introduced premium features like the exclusive Yacht Club, which is essentially their luxury ship-within-a-ship concept offering butler service, private areas, and VIP treatment. The ship also brought multiple specialty restaurants beyond just Italian food, sprawling pool decks with actual space to spread out, and much bigger theater venues capable of handling more elaborate theatrical productions. Back in 2008, Fantasia was genuinely impressive and even groundbreaking for what MSC was trying to accomplish, showing the cruise world that this European brand was serious about competing globally. Fast forward to 2025 though, and while Fantasia still carries the prestige of being a trailblazer that changed MSC's trajectory, she's definitely starting to show her age in ways that are hard to ignore. The decor throughout the ship leans heavily toward old-fashioned design choices that looked elegant in the late 2000s but now feel dated compared to the sleek, modern aesthetic of newer vessels. While the Yacht Club continues to impress guests who splurge for that premium experience, other areas of the ship simply don't shine as brightly anymore when you stack them up against what MSC has accomplished with their Meraviglia class, Seaside class, and world-class ships. Fantasia works best for cruisers who want to get a taste of MSC's modern era and experience features like the Yacht Club without paying the premium prices you'd encounter on brand new flagships. But she definitely doesn't deliver that same jaw-dropping wow factor that you'll get from the company's newer classes of ships. She's historically significant and still pleasant enough to sail on, but she's no longer the showstopper she once was. Sliding into 14th place is the MSC Splendida. Launched in 2009 as a slightly upgraded sister ship to Fantasia, Splendida carries about 3,274 passengers and offered a more refined, polished version of the Fantasia design philosophy that MSC had debuted just a year earlier. The ship added improved public spaces with better passenger flow and more comfortable seating areas, extra dining variety with additional specialty restaurant options, and a more elegant, upscale version of the Yacht Club experience that felt even more exclusive. Over the years, many guests have considered Splendida to be a touch more stylish than her older sister Fantasia, and she earned herself a solid reputation for smooth sailing experiences across both European and Asian itineraries where MSC deployed her strategically. That said, Splendida is now facing exactly the same core issue that's plaguing her older sister ship. She's aging in a fleet where new vessels keep continuously raising the bar for what guests expect from their cruise experience. The entertainment on Splendida is perfectly fine and you won't be bored, but it's definitely not the spectacular, cutting-edge production level you'll encounter on newer ships with massive budgets for shows and technology. Dining throughout the ship feels increasingly dated in certain areas, especially when you compare it to the diverse, international cuisine options available on MSC's latest vessels. And perhaps most frustratingly, the ship can genuinely feel overcrowded and cramped when she's sailing at full capacity, with pool decks and public areas that weren't really designed to handle that many guests comfortably by modern standards. Splendida remains a perfectly solid cruise option that won't disappoint you, especially if you're specifically trying to experience the yacht club at a lower price point than you'd pay on newer ships. But she no longer feels like a top-tier contender in MSC's 2025 lineup when you've got so many newer, more exciting options competing for your attention and vacation dollars. Coming in at lucky number 13 is the MSC Divina. Launched in 2012 and named after legendary actress Sophia Loren, who also serves as the ship's godmother in a special relationship MSC maintains with the Italian icon, Divina carries a passenger capacity of about 3,502 guests. This ship represented a significant step forward from both Splendida and Fantasia when she debuted, bringing more refined design elements throughout the vessel. The ship features genuinely elegant interiors with a sophisticated European aesthetic, a beautiful infinity pool positioned at the back of the ship that became an instant photo favorite, and one of the most refined early versions of MSC's yacht club concept with improved amenities and service. For several years, Divina was considered MSC's absolute crown jewel in the North American market, sailing popular Caribbean itineraries out of Miami and serving as the company's flagship presence in a region dominated by Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian. She still delivers an undeniably classy experience that appeals to cruisers who appreciate that more traditional, elegant approach to ship design. But in 2025, even Divina feels somewhat overshadowed by MSC's newer mega ships that offer so much more in terms of features, entertainment, and that wow factor that drives bookings. The cabins throughout Divina are comfortable and well appointed, but they're definitely not cutting edge by modern standards with limited tech integration and somewhat basic amenities. And the entertainment lineup, while solid, feels more traditional and conservative than the innovative, high-tech productions you'll find on vessels like World Europa or even the Meraviglia class ships. Divina continues to maintain a dedicated fan following among loyal MSC cruisers who genuinely love this ship and request her specifically when booking, which speaks to the quality experience she still delivers. But for newcomers to the brand who don't have that nostalgic connection, Divina simply doesn't carry the same wow factor or excitement as her successors in the fleet. Think of her as a classic, graceful, charming, and still beautiful in her own right, but no longer the star of the show that she was a decade ago. At number 12, we find the MSC Preziosa. Launched in 2013 as the absolute final ship in the Fantasia class, Preziosa carries around 3,502 passengers and essentially represented the culmination of everything MSC had learned and refined while building Fantasia, Splendida, and Divina over the previous 5 years. She brought in even more specialty restaurant options to satisfy foodies, updated entertainment venues with better technology and production capabilities, and refined interior design that still manages to feel relatively elegant today compared to some of her older sisters. One of Preziosa's big claims to fame when she launched was the Vertigo water slide, which measured in as one of the longest water slides at sea and became a major selling point for families with kids looking for onboard thrills. While Preziosa still offers plenty of fun across the board and delivers a quality vacation experience, she ultimately suffers from the same fundamental problem as her Fantasia-class sisters. The newer MSC ships have simply outclassed her in virtually every measurable category. She's solid, dependable, and still genuinely beautiful to look at with her classic design aesthetic. But she just doesn't have the cutting-edge technology you'll find on newer vessels, the innovative features that make you stop and stare, or the sheer scale and resort-style atmosphere of the Seaside class or world-class ships that now represent MSC's vision for the future. If you're specifically after a more traditional MSC experience that harkens back to when the brand was finding its footing in the large ship market, and you want it with a bit of extra flair and refinement, Preziosa makes a strong choice that won't disappoint you. She's got enough going for her to remain relevant and bookable in the modern market. But in this particular ranking where we're comparing her against literally every other option in the MSC fleet, she lands firmly in the middle of the pack as a ship that's good but not great in 2025. Cracking into the top 11 is the MSC Meraviglia. Launched in 2017 as the very first ship of the Meraviglia class, this vessel can accommodate more than 4,475 passengers, marking the definitive point where MSC finally joined the league of true mega ships that could rival anything Royal Caribbean or Norwegian were building. Meraviglia introduced what has become MSC's now iconic design feature, an indoor promenade capped with this absolutely massive LED dome ceiling that spans the length of the ship's main boulevard, creating a futuristic, immersive environment for shops, restaurants, bars, and nightly shows projected onto the dome itself. Guests absolutely loved the dramatically expanded specialty dining options that gave them way more variety than older ships, the multiple pool areas spread across different decks, and significantly upgraded entertainment including Cirque du Soleil at sea, which brought world-class acrobatic performances to MSC for the first time. However, being the very first ship of her class means Meraviglia has some rough edges that MSC would later smooth out with subsequent ships. The crowd flow throughout the vessel can get genuinely messy during peak times, with certain choke points where passengers bunch up trying to navigate between areas. Some sections of the ship feel surprisingly cramped despite the overall size, which creates frustration when you're trying to get around. And seasoned MSC cruisers who've sailed multiple Meraviglia-class ships often express preferences for her newer sisters where the design was refined and improved. Still, nobody can take away from Meraviglia the fact that she was the ship that launched MSC into true global recognition as a major player, proving the company could absolutely compete head-to-head with industry giants. She might not be completely flawless in execution, but Meraviglia remains a genuine turning point in MSC's modern identity and represents the moment when the world started taking this European brand seriously as a global cruise powerhouse. Sliding into 10th place is the MSC Bellissima. Launched in 2019 as the second ship of the Meraviglia class, Bellissima carries nearly 4,475 passengers and took absolutely everything that worked well on Meraviglia before refining and polishing it even further based on guest feedback and operational experience. The LED promenade dome became even more dazzling with additional projection mapping technology and more elaborate shows projected across its surface throughout the day and night. Specialty restaurant options were expanded to include even more international cuisine choices, and the cabins throughout the ship received more refined design touches with better storage solutions and improved layouts. One of Bellissima's biggest claims to fame when she launched was introducing Zoe to the MSC fleet, which is essentially their virtual assistant system installed in cabins. Think of it like having Alexa or Google Home in your stateroom, giving you voice-controlled access to ship information, service requests, and basic controls. It was an innovative tech feature that showed MSC was thinking about how to modernize the cruise experience beyond just building bigger ships. Guests who sail on Bellissima consistently praise the ship for her elegance and genuinely modern feel throughout, though some reviews do mention that service and dining quality sometimes struggle to keep pace with the ship's massive size, which is a common challenge across the industry for mega ships. While Bellissima isn't necessarily the most innovative MSC ship in terms of introducing completely new concepts, she represents a strong refinement of the Meraviglia formula that works really well in execution. She's undeniably beautiful, packed with entertainment options across multiple venues, and offers tons of dining variety that keeps meals interesting throughout your cruise. But she sometimes feels like the middle child in MSC's lineup, not quite as groundbreaking as her older sister Meraviglia who pioneered this ship class, and not as massive and resort-like as the Meraviglia Plus ships that would follow. Still, she's a genuinely excellent ship that delivers a fantastic modern cruise experience. At number 9, we've got the MSC Grandiosa. Also launched in 2019, Grandiosa serves as the lead ship of the Meraviglia Plus class, which is essentially a supersized, enhanced version of the original Meraviglia design. With capacity for nearly 6,334 passengers, Grandiosa instantly became one of the absolute largest cruise ships in the entire world when she made her debut, rivaling even Royal Caribbean's biggest vessels. The LED promenade that guests loved on Meraviglia and Bellissima was dramatically expanded in both length and height, creating an even more impressive indoor boulevard experience. MSC added significantly more dining venue options to accommodate the larger passenger count, and the overall design throughout the ship felt bigger, bolder, and way busier than anything MSC had attempted before. Guests who sail on Grandiosa often rave about the sheer scale of entertainment options available, from massive theatrical productions in the main theater to live music venues, nightclubs, and even specialty experiences like the chocolatier where you can watch chocolate being made. But that absolutely massive size comes with some real trade-offs that are important to understand before booking. The pool decks can feel genuinely overcrowded during sea days when everyone wants to be outside at the same time, making it tough to find lounge chairs or even comfortable standing room. Securing dining reservations at popular specialty restaurants requires advanced planning and can still be tricky even when you book early. And navigating the ship itself sometimes feels like being stuck in a massive floating shopping mall where you're constantly walking long distances just to get from one area to another. Grandiosa is absolutely dazzling and represents an ambitious showcase of what MSC is capable of accomplishing at full scale when they're not holding back. But the ship also highlights this ongoing challenge the entire cruise industry faces, balancing increasingly massive ship sizes with maintaining a quality passenger experience that doesn't feel overwhelming or frustrating. She's undeniably spectacular in many ways, but she doesn't quite break into that very top tier where everything comes together perfectly. At number 8, we're switching gears completely to the MSC Seaside. Launched in 2017 as the first ship in the Seaside class, this vessel carries around 4,134 passengers and represents a totally different design philosophy compared to the Meraviglia ships we just discussed. Unlike those ships with their enclosed LED dome promenades designed to feel like indoor boulevards, Seaside was specifically built with the North American cruise market in mind, and her entire design reflects that strategic focus. The ship introduced wraparound waterfront promenades that give you ocean views from virtually every angle, extensive outdoor dining areas where you can eat with the sea breeze in your face, and pool decks designed to make the whole ship feel more like a Miami Beach resort than a traditional cruise ship. Her signature infinity bridges and ocean-facing glass elevators became instant favorites on Instagram and travel blogs, giving passengers those picture-perfect moments that make everyone jealous back home. Guests who sail Seaside absolutely love the outdoor-focused vibe and the abundance of alfresco dining options that let you enjoy meals in the fresh air rather than being stuck in enclosed restaurants all the time. However, critics have noted that the indoor crowd flow can still feel somewhat chaotic during bad weather or evening hours when everyone moves inside simultaneously. Seaside represented a bold break from MSC's traditional design approach that had followed European sensibilities, and for many industry observers, she was the company's first true competitor to Carnival and Royal Caribbean's dominance in the crucial Miami market. She wasn't perfect in execution, and MSC would continue refining this design concept with subsequent ships. But Seaside showed the world that MSC could actually design ships that fit their target market instead of just copying what everyone else was doing or sticking with European preferences that didn't always translate well to North American passengers. Rounding out this section at number 7 is the MSC Seaview. Launched in 2018 as the sister ship to Seaside, Seaview carries a similar passenger capacity of about 4,134 guests and refined the outdoor-focused cruising concept even further based on feedback from Seaside's first year of operation. Her design continues emphasizing those panoramic ocean views that guests loved so much on Seaside, alfresco restaurant spaces that make outdoor dining feel natural rather than an afterthought, and those wide waterfront promenades that have become a signature feature of this ship class. Seaview has become genuinely one of the most photogenic ships in the entire MSC fleet, with sight lines and design elements that just naturally create beautiful pictures no matter where you're standing. Guests consistently praise Seaview as a ship that feels absolutely perfectly built for warm weather destinations like the Caribbean and Mediterranean, where the outdoor-centric design actually enhances your vacation experience rather than just being a gimmick. The entertainment venues throughout the ship shine with solid production shows and live music, the multiple pool areas give you options beyond just one crowded deck, and the specialty dining options hit that sweet spot of quality and variety. Like her sister Seaside, Seaview does struggle a bit with indoor crowd management when weather forces everyone inside or during evening hours when outdoor areas become less appealing. But overall, Seaview successfully cemented the Seaside class as a legitimate success story for MSC, proving the company could create ships that didn't just look beautiful in marketing photos but also offered a genuinely fresh take on what a modern cruise experience could be. She's stylish, bold, and absolutely perfect for sun-seekers who want that resort-style vacation where indoor space almost feels secondary to the outdoor experience. No wonder she ranks this high in our list when there are still so many newer ships ahead of her. At number 6, we have the MSC Virtuosa. Launched in 2021 as the sister ship to Grandiosa in the Meraviglia Plus class, Virtuosa can accommodate over 6,334 passengers, making her one of MSC's absolute largest vessels in the fleet. This ship doubled down hard on MSC's mega-resort approach, offering what honestly feels like an overwhelming number of dining options, entertainment venues, and activity choices spread across 19 decks. Virtuosa carried forward that signature LED promenade dome that guests love, but added new theatrical shows with updated technology, refreshed decor throughout that feels more contemporary, and more advanced tech features including MSC's upgraded Zoe AI assistant with expanded capabilities. The entertainment programming on Virtuosa ranges from absolutely massive high-tech production shows in the main theater to interactive kids clubs with dedicated spaces for different age groups, while food lovers get to enjoy a seriously impressive variety of international dining that spans way beyond just Italian cuisine. But as we've seen with Grandiosa before her, Virtuosa's absolutely massive size ends up being both a major blessing and a significant curse depending on your personal preferences. When the ship is sailing at capacity, which happens frequently on popular itineraries, crowds can feel genuinely heavy in public areas, especially around pools and popular restaurants. Lines for dining reservations or signature activities aren't uncommon, and you sometimes need to plan your day strategically just to avoid the worst bottlenecks. Still, there's no denying that Virtuosa represents the absolute pinnacle of MSC's Meraviglia Plus design philosophy, flashy, undeniably modern, and packed to the absolute brim with options for guests of all ages and interests. She's a serious contender among MSC's best ships, falling just shy of that very top tier where the newer ship classes take things to completely different levels. If you want the full megaship experience with endless entertainment and dining variety, Virtuosa absolutely delivers. You just need to accept that you'll be sharing all those amazing amenities with thousands of other passengers. Breaking into the top 5 at number 5 is the MSC Seashore. Also launched in 2021, Seashore serves as the first ship of the Seaside EVO class, which is essentially a stretched and significantly improved evolution of the original Seaside design that we discussed earlier. Carrying more than 4,540 passengers, Seashore took everything that worked beautifully on Seaside and Seaview, then expanded and enhanced those concepts while specifically addressing some of the criticisms guests had raised about the original ships. The ship introduced additional outdoor dining venues with even more variety, added new infinity pools that created even more stunning photo opportunities, and dramatically expanded the waterfront promenade areas to give passengers more space to spread out and enjoy those ocean views. But perhaps most importantly, MSC completely reimagined the public spaces throughout the ship to improve passenger flow and solve some of those crowding issues that plagued the original Seaside vessels during peak times. The result is a much more polished, resort-style feel where the ship genuinely functions better operationally while still maintaining that signature outdoor-centric design philosophy. Guests consistently highlight Seashore's incredible balance of modern technology with sun-soaked design elements, noting how the ship offers tons of open-air spaces that make you feel connected to the ocean in ways that enclosed mega-ships simply cannot replicate. The pool decks are genuinely spectacular with multiple levels and areas that reduce crowding. Specialty dining hits a sweet spot between quality and accessibility, and entertainment throughout the ship maintains a high standard without feeling overwhelming. Industry experts and cruise reviewers frequently cite Seashore as one of the absolute best MSC ships specifically for Caribbean cruising, where that outdoor focus becomes a genuine advantage rather than just a design preference. She's stylish, bold, visually stunning from every angle, and perfectly demonstrates that MSC wasn't just focused on building bigger ships for the sake of size. They were actively refining what already worked well and making it significantly better based on real guest feedback and operational experience. Seashore represents a major standout in the fleet, though the competition ahead of her in our ranking is even fiercer with ships that push boundaries in completely different ways. In fourth place, we find the MSC Euribia. Launched in June 2023 as the fifth ship in the Meraviglia class, Euribia holds an absolutely special place in MSC's history because she represents the company's first ship powered entirely by liquefied natural gas, making her their most environmentally advanced vessel to date and a significant step toward more sustainable cruising practices. With space for more than 6,334 passengers, she combines MSC's proven massive resort-style approach with genuinely eco-friendly technology that reduces emissions dramatically compared to traditional fuel sources. But Euribia doesn't just stand out for her green credentials. She also features absolutely stunning hull artwork that carries a strong sustainability theme throughout the design, making her instantly recognizable in port and setting her apart visually from every other ship in the fleet. The artwork depicts the sea and environmental elements in this beautiful, artistic way that actually means something rather than just being decorative. On board, guests enjoy that massive variety of specialty dining options that MSC has perfected across the Meraviglia class, an art program that brings genuine culture and education into the cruise experience, and all the signature hallmarks of the Meraviglia design, including that iconic LED dome-covered promenade that creates such a spectacular indoor boulevard atmosphere. While some travelers still find the sheer size of ships like Euribia to be somewhat overwhelming, especially when sailing at full capacity during peak seasons, she proves beyond any doubt that MSC can innovate not just in style and amenities, but also in environmental responsibility and sustainability. She's bold, genuinely green in meaningful ways, packed with modern flair throughout every deck, and represents a legitimate glimpse into what the future of cruising needs to look like as the industry faces increasing pressure to reduce its environmental impact. Euribia shows that you don't have to sacrifice luxury or entertainment to be more eco-conscious, which earns her a well-deserved spot in our top 5. Sliding into third place is the MSC Seascape. Launched in December 2022 as the second ship in the Seaside EVO class, Seascape carries approximately 5,877 passengers and improved even further on the already successful Seashore design with additional refined public areas, new specialty dining concepts that pushed culinary boundaries, and enhanced outdoor experiences that took the resort-style concept to new heights. Her absolutely massive pool deck features multiple infinity-style whirlpools and sun-lounging areas that create some of the most photogenic spaces MSC has ever built, instantly making Seascape one of the most Instagram-worthy ships in the entire fleet. The ship received significant technology upgrades throughout that improve everything from cabin controls to entertainment systems, and MSC specifically focused on creating smoother passenger flow patterns that keep guests happy even when the ship is sailing at full capacity. Passengers who've sailed on Seascape consistently rave about the ship's ability to balance fun and relaxation in equal measures, offering high-energy entertainment and activities for those who want constant stimulation, while also providing peaceful outdoor spaces where you can genuinely relax and decompress. The ship manages to deliver modern amenities and cutting-edge features without feeling as overwhelming as some of the absolute largest mega ships that can sometimes feel like sensory overload. Guest reviews frequently highlight how Seascape feels sleek and stylish while remaining perfectly suited for both families looking for activities and couples seeking that romantic getaway atmosphere, making her one of the most well-rounded ships in the entire MSC fleet in terms of appealing to different passenger demographics. She hits that ideal sweet spot of resort luxury combined with an oceanfront lifestyle that makes you feel connected to the sea rather than isolated inside a massive floating building. The balance she strikes between size, amenities, outdoor spaces, and overall atmosphere absolutely deserves recognition, earning her this top 3 position even with 2 absolutely incredible ships still ahead of her. Coming in at number 2 is the highly anticipated MSC World America. Set to launch in April 2025 as the second ship of the revolutionary world class following World Europa's debut, World America will accommodate nearly 6,762 passengers when she enters service, ranking her among the absolute largest cruise ships in the entire world across all cruise lines. What makes World America particularly significant is that she's been designed specifically and intentionally for the North American cruise market, taking everything that worked brilliantly on World Europa and adapting it specifically for American cruisers with more familiar dining options that match local preferences, expanded entertainment programming tailored to North American tastes, and MSC's signature World Promenade concept, which is this incredible half-indoor, half-outdoor boulevard. That's absolutely perfect for shopping, dining, and socializing regardless of weather conditions. Sustainability remains a major focus throughout the ship's design, with LNG propulsion systems that dramatically reduce emissions compared to traditional cruise ship engines, plus advanced waste management systems that minimize environmental impact in meaningful ways. World America promises to feature cutting-edge entertainment venues including potentially the largest theater in MSC's fleet, multiple specialty restaurants representing cuisines from around the world, and family-friendly zones with activities designed specifically for the North American market where multi-generational travel is extremely popular. The ship will be based year-round out of Miami, giving MSC a true flagship presence in the most important cruise market in North America and allowing them to compete directly with Royal Caribbean and Norwegian on their home turf. While World America promises to be an absolute game-changer for MSC's presence in North America and early previews suggest she'll be absolutely spectacular in execution, she's still completely untested in real-world cruising conditions as of this ranking. We haven't seen actual guest reviews, we don't know how well the service and operations will function at this massive scale, and there's always risk when launching any new ship that unforeseen issues could emerge. That uncertainty is literally the only reason World America falls just short of claiming our top spot. But make absolutely no mistake about it, all signs point toward her being one of MSC's most impressive and important ships ever built, potentially rivaling even World Europa depending on how successfully she's adapted for North American preferences. She represents MSC's clearest statement yet that they're serious about becoming a dominant player in the North American cruise market, not just a European brand that occasionally ventures across the Atlantic. Finally, taking the crown as the absolute best MSC ship in 2025 is the MSC World Europa. Launched in November 2022 as the lead ship of the revolutionary world class, this absolute behemoth carries nearly 6,762 passengers and represents the boldest, most ambitious leap MSC has ever made in cruise ship design and innovation. World Europa completely reimagined what an MSC ship could be, moving away from simply building bigger versions of existing designs and instead creating something genuinely new and different that set her apart from everything else at sea. Her standout signature feature is the World Promenade, which is this absolutely futuristic boulevard that splits brilliantly between indoor and outdoor spaces depending on where you're standing, creating this seamless flow between protected areas and open-air sections. The promenade is capped off by the jaw-dropping Venom Drop, an absolutely insane dry slide that spans 11 decks and stretches 341 feet in length, making it the longest slide at sea by a significant margin. World Europa also pioneered LNG propulsion for MSC's fleet, making her the company's greenest ship and representing a major step forward towards sustainable cruising practices that the entire industry desperately needs to embrace. On board, guests are absolutely spoiled with an overwhelming array of specialty restaurants representing cuisines from across the globe, cutting-edge entertainment productions that rival anything you'd find on land in major cities, and immersive technology experiences throughout the ship that genuinely feel like you've stepped into the future of cruising. The ship features distinct neighborhood zones that give different areas their own unique personality and atmosphere, multiple pool complexes that reduce crowding and give guests options, and a yacht club area that takes MSC's luxury ship-within-a-ship concept to completely new heights of exclusivity and service. Critics, industry experts, and guests who've actually sailed on World Europa consistently agree that this ship finally puts MSC on completely equal footing with, and in some ways legitimately ahead of, industry giants like Royal Caribbean when it comes to innovation, design, and the overall guest experience. She's not just incrementally better than previous MSC ships, she represents a genuine quantum leap forward that announces MSC as a serious global player that can compete with absolutely anyone. Bold, stylish, genuinely eco-conscious in meaningful ways, and absolutely unforgettable from the moment you step aboard, World Europa stands as the crown jewel of MSC's entire fleet heading into 2025 and represents everything the brand has been working toward for the past 2 decades. And there you have it. Every single MSC cruise ship ranked from the absolute worst to the undeniable best in 2025. From those humble, aging Lyrica-class ships that remind us where MSC started, all the way up to the groundbreaking World Europa that shows us where this brand is headed, this fleet tells the complete story of MSC's incredible transformation over the past 20 years. They've gone from a relatively small European family-owned cruise line to a legitimate global powerhouse that builds ships rivaling anything else on the water. So here's the real question, do you agree with this ranking, or would you put your personal favorite MSC ship somewhere different on this list? Maybe you have a soft spot for one of those older vessels that brings back amazing vacation memories, or perhaps you think one of the newer ships deserves to rank even higher. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's get a discussion going about which MSC ships really deserve the top spots. And if you genuinely enjoyed this deep dive into the complete MSC fleet with updated information for 2025, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more cruise rankings, ship comparisons, and insider secrets that'll help you book the perfect vacation. Until next time, happy sailing out there.